I want to ask you something, and I want you to sit with it before you answer. Is there someone you haven't forgiven? You know who I mean. You didn't even have to think. The name came up before I finished the sentence. Yeah, I know that feeling. My name is Dolores. People call me Dee. I'm 81 years old, and for most of my adult life I carried a stone in my chest the size of my fist. I didn't call it what it was. I called it being careful. I called it having standards. I called it not being a fool twice. I called it everything except what it was. It was resentment, and it was eating me alive. My husband Ernesto and I were married for 44 years. Good man in a lot of ways. Not a good man in one way that mattered very much. In 1987, he did something that I won't go into because it's not the point. The point is I found out, and I stayed. People at church thought I stayed because I was strong. My sister thought I stayed because I was afraid. My therapist, the one I saw for 2 months before I decided she didn't understand me, she thought I stayed because I loved him. The truth is I stayed and I never let it go. Not once. Not for 27 years. I stayed in the house and I stayed in the marriage and I kept the secret like a good wife. But I put that stone in my chest and I held it there. And I told myself, you hold this stone. You hold it so you never forget what he did. You hold it so he can never do it again. You hold it so you stay protected. What nobody tells you about holding a stone for 27 years is what it does to your hands. You hold something that long, your hands start to close around it. And then one day you realize you can't open them all the way anymore. You can't hold anything else. Not really. Not all the way. Your hands are already full. I held that stone through every vacation we ever took, through every Christmas dinner, through every one of our children's weddings, standing next to Ernesto in the photographs, smiling with my mouth. I was there. I just wasn't there. He died in 2010, pancreatic cancer, 3 months from diagnosis to the end. And I held his hand at the end because that's what you do. And I thought when he died I'd put the stone down. I thought grief would just dissolve it somehow. It didn't. I kept carrying it for 3 more years after he was gone, against a dead man, protecting myself from someone who no longer existed. I want you to understand how absurd that is. I was still defending the border of a country the war had already left. My granddaughter, she's 24 now, she came to visit me about 8 years ago. We were having coffee at this table right here. And she said, out of nowhere, she said, Abuela, do you ever laugh? Like really laugh? I didn't have an answer for her. I used to laugh. I know that about myself. There are photographs. I had made myself so careful, so protected, so permanently braced against the thing that had already happened, that I had squeezed the laughter right out of my own days. That's what resentment actually is, not protection. Resentment is a posture. It's your whole body clenched, waiting for a punch that already landed. The punch already landed. You don't have to keep flinching. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking if I let it go, it means it was okay. If I stop being angry, it means they win. If I forgive them, I'm saying what they did didn't matter. That's the lie at the center of all of this. Forgiveness is not an acquittal. You're not the judge. You're not the jury. You're just the one still living in the courtroom long after everyone else went home. I have a friend, her name is Patricia, 78 years old. Her daughter said something cruel to her at a birthday dinner 12 years ago. 12 years. Patricia hasn't been to a family gathering since. She describes herself as a woman with principles. She is very certain that she is right. And she is. She probably is right. And she is the loneliest woman I have ever sat across a table from. I have another friend, Maria. She's 75. Her ex-husband left her for someone younger, spent down half their savings and moved to another state. It was devastating. She was destroyed for 2 years, and then she made a decision, not to forgive him because he deserved it. She forgave him because she wanted her life back. She said, "Dee, I'm not carrying his garbage to my grave." Today Maria takes a dance class on Tuesday nights, and she laughs the way I remembered laughing. Same injury. 2 different choices about what to do with it afterward. What I finally understood, what took me until I was almost 73, to really feel in my body, and not just think in my head, is that resentment is not about the person who hurt you. They're living their life, or they're dead, like Ernesto. Either way, they are not sitting in your chest. You put them there. You are the one maintaining the shrine. Holding on to what someone did to you doesn't punish them. It just charges you rent. I put the stone down the spring of 2016. Not in a dramatic moment. Not at a therapist's office. I put it down in my kitchen on a Tuesday morning. I was making coffee, and I set out 2 cups the way I always did from habit. And then I looked at the second cup and I thought, I'm still doing this. I'm still setting a place for my grief like it's a guest I invited. And I picked up the second cup, and I put it back in the cabinet. That was it. That was the whole thing. You want to know what was waiting on the other side of that stone? Not happiness, not some sudden burst of light, just room. There was just room in my chest for something other than that one thing. Room to notice my granddaughter's face when she tells me about her day. Room to sit on the porch and have the coffee actually taste like something. Room to be here, present, in my own kitchen, in my own life, without a war going on inside me. You have carried it long enough, whoever it is, whatever they did. You have served enough time for a crime that was done to you, not by you. I'm not telling you it was fine. I'm not telling you to call them or go back or pretend. Some doors should stay closed. I am just telling you that you can close the door without standing guard outside of it forever. Put the stone down, not for them, for your hands, so you can hold something else, so you can hold your coffee cup and actually taste it, so you can hold your grandchild's hand without something else already in your grip. I'm 81 years old. I wasted more years than I want to count standing guard over a wound. Don't do that. The thing that hurt you already happened. You survived it. You don't have to keep surviving it every single day. If this sat somewhere in you, share it with somebody who you know is still carrying something heavy. They might not know what to call it yet. And tell me in the comments, what have you been calling it? What name have you been giving the thing you're really carrying? I'd like to know. I think you'd like to say it out loud.